Hey class, we have another week of drawing ahead of us, and we're going to be starting sort of a new type of drawing called observational drawing. So this module will be the beginning of it, but it'll last for a little while longer, and this is kind of going to be the basis of a lot of the things we're going to be doing in the future. It's called observational drawing, but also you can hear it sometimes referred to as proportional drawing, and using the sight, see, measure method. What it basically is this example, this illustration shows you there's something out in the world that you want to put on your paper. And it has a certain size and shape and a proportion to it, its height to its width to its depth. And you're using your eye to measure visually that, and then this right here has a relationship also to this because of your measuring. So C, D, you're measuring E and F, and then down here would be G and H. So this size is related to this size because you measured the height compared to the width. But before we get fully into it, I want to talk to you about a couple things that are important to know before you start. You're going to be using your eye, your pencil, and your hand to interact with something we would call the picture plane, this imaginary flat field in front of us. And you're going to use that to map down onto your page some marks that will turn into a drawing. So the idea is to translate what you see out in front of you onto your paper by using this method. So what do I mean by a picture plane? It's an imaginary vertical surface like a window, and you're looking at the objects or the subjects that you're going to be drawing, and you're going to create them on your paper by using this sort of idea. This is just an example from Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. He's talking about it as like framing it like a camera lens in a movie. Okay? It's important to know also in this methodology that your hand and pencil become the measuring device. And for that to happen, you have to have your arm locked all the way out, and your pencil has to be parallel up and down, directly up and down, either if it's sideways or up and down. It has to be parallel, not poking through the picture plane. Like a clock hand on a clock can't poke into the clock or out of the clock. When you do this, when you measure like this guy, you have to have one eye closed, because do this with me right now and put your pencil directly out in front of you or your thumb and close your left eye, your right eye, left eye, right eye, left eye, right eye. You'll see that your thumb is jumping back and forth. So having two eyes open, binocular vision, throws it off. You have to have only one eye open. So in this way, you're kind of like making yourself into a surveying device. And when you do it to measure, you're going to move your finger up and down on your pencil and lock it into place and move it around. So that's important for you to try. Grab a pencil right now, pause the video if you need to, and attempt to just move your hand up and down and then lock it into place. You're going to use your thumb to the tip of the pencil to do this measuring here. Okay? That's sort of the methodology, and I'll be doing a demonstration video, but I want you to kind of conceptually understand it a little bit, and we'll build on the knowledge each step of the way. So we have your hand is a measuring device with your pencil, and then what you're trying to draw. We've established that there's a picture plane in front of you that you're operating with, and you're measuring this picture plane. And this is how you measure it. You have your arm locked all the way out from your elbow with your pencil directly up and down parallel, and you use one eye closed, and then you move your arm like that. Okay? Another important thing is to think about is what's the center of your vision, or what are the edges that you want to show in your drawing, right? Well, if you have the wide world around you in 3D, it's going all the way everywhere. You have on the very edges of your vision, your peripheral vision. How do you decide what you want to show, or how do you decide where it stops and starts if you're drawing the world around you? You could use like a little slide frame and close one eye. You could do two L shapes out of cardboard, but I think this is the most straightforward, easy way is to put your hands like two L shapes and hold them up like this to create a little window. That'll show you kind of like a way of framing it like a cinematographer. Decide how much you want to show of the world that you're drawing. Okay? You're going to want to align the center point of your vision, so your head, to the center of your drawing. That means whatever you're drawing, you're going to have to sit directly in front of it and with your head facing right at it. I recommend keeping your body loose and your head kind of sitting exactly like you would like it to automatically and naturally sit, and making that the center point of your drawing. And this drawing here, it's this crane. So the person's eye level was probably somewhere around here. And the crane is the center of their drawing. So it's kind of like around there. See, there's their eye level. There's the center of what they were drawing. Everything was going away and coming towards them this direction. You have to decide at this point if your paper would be best oriented portrait or landscape. If there's a lot of tall things that you're trying to draw, like the church back here, then you would have your paper portrait, right? Or if you were doing something that's a wider drawing like this, you would have it landscape. So kind of look at your still life you have set up, hold your hands in that shape, and decide if it's longer this way or longer that way. If it's portrait or landscape, that would work better for it. Now, the first step that I want you to do, and you're going to do this for a little while until you get used to it, this whole process, is to make a cross on your paper. Now, it's important to do it so it's square to the edge of the page. I put a little square here to get the idea across. This line needs to be parallel to either the bottom or the top, right? That's what square means. And this line needs to be parallel to either this side or that side. They're the same, but so that they would form a square. Has to be both directions to be square. Okay? This line is obviously not square, so you need to measure it out, get it kind of careful, and actually have it like that. It'll be a good, useful reference for you. Ideally, the center point of the square is at the center point of your vision. That way you kind of know which quadrant everything is in the drawing. If this person had drawn a square, a cross I should say, not a square, on this drawing right here, they would know where everything kind of should be placed on the paper that's in front of them. Well, why does that matter? Because when you're sighting and seeing the whole wide world, you don't necessarily know where it should go on your paper, right? So it's kind of an important way of just initially formulating kind of where things go. If he had more objects, you would need to know, okay, is something above or to the left or to the right? Well, this square, this cross that's squared up will help you a lot for that. It will help you a lot with that sort of process, and it's a reference, okay? This is just an example from Understanding Comics, again, by Scott McCloud. This kind of gets an interesting idea across from this too, that this can be a conceptual thing. An idea can be brought forward by what you put at the center of your vision, or if it's an imaginary world, what you put at the center of the drawing can be a point of action or emptiness, like a distance to be crossed. This one is showing closeness and a focal point, a sort of absence that can be mysterious, something where there's the attention of a character looking. The center of a drawing will be automatically somewhere somebody will look, or a focal point, and so what you put there becomes important. Even if it's nothing, empty space, that's important as well. So this could be a conceptual idea part of your drawing as well. Sometimes people say observational drawing's not creative, or there's no creativity to it. You're just looking at something and putting it down on the page. I don't want to do this class. I thought I'd be able to do something creative. Well, this is how you can start to become creative with it, and it becomes the way in which you can really tell a story, and if you're interested in eventually making worlds of your own, comics, imaginary drawings, all sorts of things, then this tool will be really useful, and observation will be very useful for you to be able to build up skills to get drawings that, even if they're not perfectly trying to be perfectly realistic, but they want to be naturalistic, something we recognize, then these skills will help you a lot with that. Okay? So after you put the cross on your paper, after you decide which direction you should go, landscape or portrait, you put a cross on it. Then you're going to do something which I call picking a basic unit of measurement. Here is my unit. They're like, what do you mean? Well, I said that this type of drawing was sometimes called proportional drawing. That's because the proportions of this one thing can be used to be measured against other things to get an accurate drawing. Something out there in the world, and this top of this sculpture would be a good choice because it's not too big compared to the overall drawing or too small. You're going to use it to compare. It's an actual thing that exists out in the world, like in your still life. If you have a cup handle, for instance, you can use that size of that cup handle to compare to the overall height of the cup, or the width, or the height and width of another object that you have in your drawing. Okay? So this is sort of your primary beginning measurement. You can make it whatever size you want on the page, because as you hold your hand out and measure it like this, you'll get a little space on your pencil. Well, you don't put that down on your page exactly. You could make it even bigger on your page. All you're doing by picking it is establishing that out in the world, this object, like the top of the sculpture, has a size to it, and you can visually measure that size with your pencil. And on your page, it's going to be this big. Okay? So once it's that big on your page, if that top of that sculpture was that big, you wouldn't be able to show very much of the scene around it, because it would just be mostly the top of the sculpture, and whatever's really close to it, right? But you're deciding that those three things have a relationship with each other. And once they do, you can use this thing out in the world, the size of it, and your measuring technique to find out how many of them something else would be. So we have here, I'm going to do a demonstration in like a live one on a video, but I just want to show you this idea a little bit on the slide. We have here this size, and we have here this building. Let's see how wide it is. It's going to be about 3. 1, 2, I'm doing it with my hands on the screen. 3, okay? So once I decide how big this unit of measurement on my page is, I can make that many measurements for the building, and they'll be in a proportional relationship to each other. It'll become, if you're like getting a little confused right now, don't despair. It'll become more and more clear as we go. So you pick a unit of measurement, something that's not too big or too small, and you're going to use that to measure the total box that everything would fit in, okay? And for this object that I haven't shown you yet, it's about 4.5 of these wide and 7 of them high. So that means counting this shape about 7 times high and about this length 4.5 wide. So for here, with this sculpture, I would go, okay, that's that shape or that size. And I go, how many wide is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, count them. And then how many high is it? 1, 2, it's about 5 probably. I'm not doing it right now, but you would actually do it with your pencil in space by counting them like that, by finding the measurement and then counting 1, 2, 3 and a half. See that? 1, there's little dotted lines, 2, 3 and a half, and then how many wide? 1, 2. See, that's their basic unit of measurement right there. Okay. And you just do little tick marks, these green lines, to create that box. It's like if you could imagine that you had any kind of object in your house, like a cup or a hat or something, you need to ship it off to somewhere far away, and you had to get a box for it. Well, it's the box or crate that the object would fit inside of. Same with your vision. It's the same type of idea. If you remember back to how we talked about using two L's, well, this will be what we're talking about. There's going to probably be a negative space, leftover space around your object, so you're going to probably want to include some of that. So this box wouldn't be just the edge of your paper. It will be on your paper because you have a little bit of extra space all around your objects. So you're creating the actual things you're drawing, okay? Inside of that box, you're going to do what we call a intuitive gesture. A gesture drawing is sort of a light. It doesn't have to be sketchy as in that it's hairy lines, but it's a light sort of drawing that's just done inside. This would be an example, just having the circles and building it up. These are all this would be like doing a gesture drawing. You do it inside of that box, okay? You're going to work off of that to find the dimensions and angles and marks and accuracy of the different parts of your object you're drawing or objects you're drawing. So you're going to keep using the measuring with your pencil to make little hash marks on top of the gesture drawing to help you make it even more accurate. Little intricacies like, from your contour drawings are what make things feel accurate. So you're going to be checking your gesture drawing. You'll have this gesture drawing, and then you're going to make these marks on here by measuring, for example, the width of the top of this mug. This is a mug that we're drawing here. You're going to be doing these steps really lightly. At the end of it, you'll have something that is dark and finished, but you do them lightly. You're correcting the dimensions of it and also making the contour of it more accurate. So you take these lines, these little hash marks you did to check the width and height of things inside of this big crate, and then you're going to redraw some of the contours that you did. You did them sketchily back here. You kind of just had them sketchy, intuitive gesture. Now you're going to be looking at them and carefully building them out with all the skills you've been learning through slowing your eye and your hand down and doing careful drawing. You can do this lightly at first if you want, and then at the end you're going to darken up all the right lines. So you end up with a copy of what you saw in front of you in this imaginary picture plane. So let's review the steps. You have the crosshair, or cross, the basic unit of measurement, a box the whole thing fits inside of, or a crate. Then you do these intuitive gestures. Then you do the guidelines, and then the shapes. These are the guidelines, little hash marks, and then you do the shapes. At the end of it, you do a contour drawing of the edge that you darken up and make accurate. So let's just show them to you one more time. There's that crosshair or cross, the basic unit of measurement, the whole crate or box it fits inside of, the intuitive gesture. These are those guidelines where you check the angles and the width of things on top of the intuitive gesture. Then you get some of the shapes pretty accurate. You start to build them up. And at the end, you darken up your really accurate contour drawing of the object. So this is where you're building on everything you've been learning this whole time, because you've been learning how to slow your eye and hand down to do these nice contour drawings of the edge and the little surface details. Well, this is where you can bring that skill into this new way of drawing, and they combine together and make a bigger and broader skill set. that we're building step by step in this course. Alright, I'm going to post a video that's a demonstration of me doing this with a still life, but I just want you guys to understand the ideas of it. I also have 2 other videos that are about 5 and 10 minutes long from other people doing this type of stuff, because I think sometimes it helps to have a few other people's voices involved in this, so you can kind of get a few different perspectives. The language they use might be helpful to you, and they'll show how they do it, which is very, very similar, slightly different, but I think it's good to see how other people do it. It's not a hard and fast must do it this exact way. There's little variations, but basically everyone who does this does exactly what I just talked to you about. Not all people, for instance, do a cross on the page, but I find that very useful for everyone I work with to do that. So I want you to watch those other 2 videos just to give you a broader perspective on it. Okay, I hope you're doing well and staying safe out there. Take care, guys.